Hi guys, I'm Joe Klemczewski, founder of The Diet Doc, co-founder of the National Academy of Metabolic Science, here with Dr. Kori Propst, our health psychologist and VP. Maybe we should say MVP. How about that one?
I like that.
Instead of VP, MVP.
Quite a bit.
We are finishing. This is the final segment, right, Kori?
This has been epic.
Yes.
Yeah.
5 gears of energetic goal pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
It has really been an exercise of allowing Kori to share her dissertation with us, all the research she did, and what really does help people with sustainable weight loss. What are the things that get in the way? And she did an amazing study with a pretty solid sample size. And so you're going to see that this series, I think, is going to be well viewed, Kori, because as people dig in, it's just such a great amount of information. But today we're talking about what not to do if you want good communication with people, or I should say good connection with people. Communication is part of that. But our last episode, we talked about how to foster the best kind of connection. So today we're on the dark side of that coin, and let's show people how to screw this up, Kori.
Yeah, this is what you should try not to do if you want strong, robust connection. And what we see is that I'm going to give you 5 things. Okay, 5 things to consider. And through this series, Joe, what I like is that we've been on the road for a while. And that's how a goal pursuit is. You do a certain amount of planning, and then you shift gears and shift gears and shift gears, and then you're in overdrive for a while. And what we've described are there are going to be detours. So these are some detours to watch out for in terms of having a strong level of support through your goal pursuit. The first one is what I call fearing rejection. Okay, these are the things that move us away from seeking connection or support in the first place. Or if we notice that within us, can be an indicator of like a kind of a snaggy or a tenuous connection, like with your coach or maybe with your partner or with a friend, right? So fearing rejection, this really involves other people. And what it is it's a fear that moves us towards an escape route or taking the escape hatch out. And we avoid asking for help. Here's what I saw in my research. It was so interesting is that a lot of people could verbalize and indicate that I need to reach out for help. I need to ask for help. I need to get some level of support. But they didn't know how. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to ask. They didn't know how to ask it. And so coming back to, if you're a coach, guys, be considerate of the possibility that this is going on underneath the surface of your clients. They genuinely want support, but they may be fearing rejection, anticipating rejection, because they don't even know how to ask for it. Have you experienced that with your clients, Joe? Any sense that they need it and they're wanting it, but they don't necessarily know how to ask for it?
Yeah, it has been a hamstringing of my entire practice for 20 some years. And it goes like this. Communication is obviously important. And so we tell the clients, here's how we're going to communicate. But then some of them fall away. They drive off into the ditch. And we're so busy helping the people who are communicating, there aren't sometimes mechanisms to go after and pursue the people who might be struggling. And so I've done everything in the world from just creating spreadsheets and thinking, who is not communicating, who's fallen away. And at the end of the day, I think as fitness professionals or any kind of a coach, that really is an important part. No matter how busy you are, you have to have some tool to pursue those people, because we talked in the last episode of being introverted versus extroverted, and a lot of times those people are just hanging back, just wishing somebody would reach out to them.
Yes, they are. They're craving that connection. and I'll come back to that because it's related here, but I actually have on my calendar once a week to reach out to MIA clients, because we know that we will have some. They're missing in action. I don't know where they are. I don't know how they are. I haven't heard from them. They haven't reached out to me. They haven't shared anything with me. I need some sort of feedback, and I crave that because I have a responsibility. They hired me. So the second thing, guys, is doubting worth. That looks like shame. That looks like experiencing a level of vulnerability, but it happens when we haven't necessarily spent enough time reflecting on our personal strengths and what we have inside of us and what our capacities are. And if there has been a little bit of friction within a relationship or fractured connection in some way, what we tend to do is we take that as indicative of a personal defect or something being wrong with us, as opposed to, this isn't an ideal situation. How can we look at the circumstances and conditions and modify those instead of automatically going to, I need to fix myself, right? So there's that, doubting worth. The third one that I saw was craving compassion. And it's important here to understand that the first one, fearing rejection, is really about other relatedness, our connection with others. Doubting worth is more about the connection we have with ourselves, and craving compassion is about the connection we have with ourselves as well. So this is really I like to call it the reframe for shame. So rather than turning it inward on ourselves, we need self-compassion. How many times have we gone down this path, Joe? Like, it's paramount. It's so significant and crucial. We need self-compassion. We need to learn to and practice offering ourselves some love and forgive ourselves in a way for ever thinking that there was something wrong or broken or that needed fixing within us. It's more like we're human and we're fallible, and are there things that we could improve upon? Yes, of course, always. But we are, I could go so many places here. I'm going to leave it at that. It's funny because what I saw in my research was that it felt for a lot of my participants like it was easier for them to reject themselves than it was to move towards the person they felt the friction or the tension with and address it directly. So taking that on and taking it personally was not only the kind of the default, but it was almost easier for them than to put themselves in that vulnerable position with another person. The fourth one is craving acceptance. And this is a desire for empathy. It's a desire for acknowledgement. It's a desire to feel seen. It's a desire for another person to be like, you're here, I see you, like, this is important. And so when we're talking about those MIA clients, the ones we don't hear from, the ones who are fearing some sort of rejection, sometimes just us reaching out to them and saying, I haven't heard from you in a while, I'm concerned. I don't want to assume that, you've fallen off the deep end or taken some wrong turns or made some mistakes, but if you have, it's okay. It really is. Let me help you. And then the fifth one, Joe, is fearing separation. And the words that my participants would use in this sort of situation were things like they felt a void or they felt a sense of aloneness. And again, they're feeling these things, they can verbalize these things, but they're not comfortable with, or they feel a sense of unwillingness to burden others by reaching out or asking for support or asking for help, or they fear disappointing someone. So those are the 5. I'll go over them again real quick. Fearing rejection, doubting our self-worth, craving compassion, craving acceptance, and then fearing separation.
So you know what this reminds me of, Kori?
No.
I mean, all 5 of these together, you use the word in the last couple episodes of being gentle.
Yes.
And I'm hearing from you in these 5 to really, show kindness toward other people, give them a break for their, maybe faults from your perspective, but also yourself, the self-compassion thing. I don't know if you can see this. Is this a national movement, or was this just in Evansville? So I was at some kind of a downtown function, and somebody had a booth there, and they had all these "Be Kind" bumper stickers, buttons, things like this. And I mean, society is kind of a
Send me one. I'm kind of mad at you now.
Yeah. Well, I'll find one. But society is kind of a self-regulating thing, and in today's culture, like where we are right now, this is the message everybody's trying to get out in some way because of all of the rancor you see. Yeah, and it's funny because I kind of saw this happening with social media, and I've used this phrase in that you think social media is going to be very connecting, and the whole digital world connects us. Well, social media started about 10 years ago, and you take 8 billion people and throw them all in each other's faces at once. It's like throwing rats in a cage and then hoping everybody gets along. I mean, we now in today's culture have so many ways to lash out and hurt people behind the anonymity of a keyboard, driving each other apart into these different groups. And the thing that's really being lost is that you can disagree with somebody and still be civil. You can not be a part of this one group, but you still are okay with that group. So all of that, Kori, just to say that as I'm listening to you explain this, we've lost a tone of just liking people, giving them the benefit of the doubt instead of always being hypercritical. Mm-hmm. And then that also bleeds into how we treat ourselves.
Absolutely.
And it's so simple to say, okay, in this situation, wherever I feel conflict, wherever there's disconnection, mm-hmm. how do I just employ a little kindness, both to myself and to the other person?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it sounds so simple, and yet it's not so easy.
Yeah, like you said, so some people just don't know how, right. And they've never been gone or taught those skills, and it's important.
So there's something really vital here that I think is worth mentioning, and you and I have talked about it, but when a client or anyone says to me, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to ask, I will often suggest to them that they say that. Because that would be the next logical first kind step. I have something I want to ask you, but I'm not really sure how to ask it. That's pretty freaking vulnerable too, but it also takes the pressure off having to have the exact words. Or, I'm concerned that what I'm going to ask you is going to feel like a burden to you, and that's not my intention. So I just want to start off by saying that first. And that you have, if you want to say no, you can. But the approach is one of openness, and it's kind to ourselves to approach the situation that way. But it's kind to the other person too, because it gives them the ability to say no or yes or whatever they want to. There's very little pressure there.
And I see what you are presupposing with that approach. whether this is a personal relationship or a professional client relationship, you're presupposing that this is going to be an ongoing conversation. Here's what I think. I'm asking you what you think. And so many times we just want to shoot off an email. We're gonna solve something with a tweet.
Yeah.
And so many times, whether it's with one of our Diet Doc program owners or a client or a friend, there are just tripwires that I can see. If I engage in this conversation or continue this conversation, the way it is, it's going to be a wreck. And so what I need to do is just get on the phone, or even better, get in front of them. There are some things that I say, you know what, I'm going to come see you. Let's have lunch. Or I'm going to come to your city, and this is a big topic. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And even before that, to say, I'm concerned that if we keep doing this over email, there are going to be some things are going to be misconstrued and misunderstood, and I want to help prevent that. How can we do this in a better way?
So the one thing that I would love to ask Dr. Kori Propst, everybody wants better connection, and we're talking about the things that break connection. I think one of the big barriers is that we always feel so self-protective. I have to defend my interest instead of just chilling out, backing up, and saying, you know what, let me listen instead of assert. And so tell me what you do as a trained therapist for yourself or to teach other people how to really just make that entire internal environment in ourselves better for those communication processes.
Well, I think first, Joe, we have to have a committed intention to an approach. And we've addressed this throughout some of the other podcasts too, and I think maybe it was just in the previous one where I said I have to engage in a deliberate sort of clearing before I go into a conversation. So it's pausing and breathing and noticing if I have any tension in my body, and literally letting that go and opening to whatever is going to be in front of me. But then the second piece is to commit to listen to learn instead of be right. I want to listen to this individual and take it in without any, as best as I possibly can, preconceived notions or assumptions or biases, because I only have my experience to go off of. So oftentimes we enter into a conversation and we're making assumptions about what that person's experience is like based on our own, because that's all we have to go off of. Right? Mm-hmm. But so in those moments, it's a commitment to being able to say, I don't know. Help me understand. Say more about that. What's that like for you? Those are just a few of the phrases that are useful to me that I think might be useful to others in these sorts of situations, in order to open up the expansiveness of a connection between you and another person.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I always go back to my assertion that I'm a philosophical absurdist, which is a real thing. You can look that up, but it goes like this. Nothing in the world is so tragic or chaotic that it should paralyze you or ruin your life. Like, that's absurd, right? Like, we pack too much meaning and emotion into things, divide over, build walls, all kinds of stuff. And that's absurd. What's not absurd is to say, you know what, this can work out okay. And so exactly what you're saying, Kori, that openness and being present in that and having no expectations, just listening. But at the same time, I have one eye arcing over the horizon saying, this is where I want to go. I want a better connection. I want a better relationship here. I want to repair something. Yeah. And so I am looking out into the distance saying, I have the expectation of something good happening. I don't have to fight. I don't have to confront. I want there to be reconciliation or conciliation of some sort.
Yes. And where we where we will find we get into trouble with expectations is when we attach to them. It's okay to have an expectation or a desire or a dream or a goal, but if we are attaching so strongly to an outcome, it's going to be this way, that's where we run into trouble. So we have to go into it with the understanding that it might not turn out that way. And okay.
Yeah, that's a core component of absurdism. It's absurd to think that your expectation is going to be, completely fulfilled.
Yes.
So to have no expectations, except, as I said, like that is my goal. That is to get to that point of openness and clarity, not to win something.
Right. Yeah. We should do another podcast on like boundaries and.
Yeah. I do have a lot of questions about, how much you need in your life versus how much you give. Yeah, that's a big thing, but I got to stop you or you'll go for another hour.
Yeah, we could. It all relates to connection though, guys. But yeah.
So there is no doubt in my mind we're going to revisit some of these topics in self-determination theory. Kori has won me over, and that's my entire mental grid now. So guys, this has been truly, as Kori said, epic series. So much information in what is self-determination theory, what motivates not only every decision you make, but those that you're coaching, clients, in any business you're involved in. There are these dynamics that if you just understand, what's happening in your brain as well as somebody else's, you can connect so much better. So
I think it's important to say too, as we're still roaring down the road, there are going to be times, guys, when you want to downshift. You're going to need to downshift and slow down and go back to first gear, where you're reviewing why you started down this road in the first place. Again, remember the whoop process. You may need to review that, revive it, okay, rejuvenate it. It's going to change as you're in fifth gear going down that road and you're learning new things and you're developing new skills and means of accomplishing things. So that's an important piece.
100%. And this is what underlies it all. Just
be kind.
Just have that open space where you allow people to just be with you and not end up having all of these agendas that have to come out so perfectly.
It's a readiness. Yeah. Open.
All right, guys. So there you have it. I don't know. I know we didn't hit a dozen, but we have several episodes. Total brain dump by Dr. Propst here. the self-determination theory in a psychological model for health professionals. So there you go, guys. You're going to want to just keep these handy. Make sure you get the show notes, write down all the information that we have there, the list that Kori has given. And now we're going to continue on in the next several episodes with some science or fiction back into macro mastery. We've got some coaching clinic guests lined up. So a lot of fun coming your way.
Thanks, guys.